320. How the heck did the Kings fix their three-point shooting woes outside of our guy NBA guru Zach's suggestion? Just make them.
Just make them and defend the three.
Let's get Mike Brown on the horn and let him know, Coach, we got some insight.
We're going to have to ask you to have your players make more threes and then defend the other three-point shooters better.
Mike on the whiteboard. All right, guys, here's what we've been doing. We've been missing a lot of threes. What we're going to do today?
Do I need to wheel the whiteboard over?
What we're going to do today? We're going to make them.
We're going to make more threes.
Get out there and make more threes. And then on defense, we've been allowing them to make them. What we're going to do is we're going to not allow them to make them. It's the game plan tonight, guys. Go get them.
Everybody in.
Everyone's sitting around there like,
Kings on one.
Make them? What? Coach, are you insane? Stop, De'Aaron. It just might be crazy enough to work.
Just might be crazy enough to work. Right. Kyle's pulling out all the stops.
All right. Let's get to 6 quick thoughts, then we can talk about Malik Monk.
How'd yesterday's Kings game go? Kings insider James Ham has 6 notes you need to know. Here are James Ham's 6 quick thoughts.
James Ham, 6 quick thoughts. If you'd like to read more about these, James_Ham NBA on Twitter. We're going to talk about them now. James, number one.
Number one, the three-point shooting and three-point defense is an emergency situation.
Boy, is it.
Like, I don't know, outside of just, telling guys to make shots and then defending better behind the arc, that I'm not sure how we get through this. But, like, realistically, this is the difference between you being the Kings being 7-3, or I don't know, like it's 7-4, right?
Yeah.
8-3, and then being 6-5. Like, they have not been good at hitting the 3-point shot all season long. And if they don't figure that out, and I'm just going to be honest, they're in the middle of 5 games in 7 nights. And they're perpetually in the middle of 5 games in 7 nights over the next 2 weeks. Just look at the schedule. It's really, really difficult to find a day where, number one, you can get practice, and number two, you can get guys recovered. And if this is a leg problem, there's nothing you can do about it. You've got to hope that guys fight through it and they get in the gym and they keep shooting on their off time and they figure it out and they find it. But for right now, it's a problem. And, structurally, you might be able to do a couple of things different to get more open looks. There might be ways to defend just a little bit better. But overall, this is a problem. And again, if it comes down to just fatigue, which I get with all of the players, with your top 4 players leading the league in minutes played, then I don't know what the solution is, Kyle.
I don't either. Because when they shot 11.5%, against the Clippers, that sounds fake, but that's what they shot.
3 for 26?
3 for 26.
Yep.
I was like, all right, everybody relax. It was one game. They started missing a bunch and everybody got tight and that game was close and it was just, all right. But then they came back 29.7% the next night and then 26.3% the next night. Like, oh, and that was after 28.6% against Toronto. It didn't matter as much because they won and held Toronto to 29.4. But then the Clippers game, they shoot 11.5%, give up 46.7. Okay, you beat Phoenix, you shoot 29.7%, but held them to 31.6. But then last night, you're going to shoot 26.3% and allow the Spurs to shoot 47.8.
Yeah.
It's just not sustainable, whatever this is. And that's why it's an emergency. This is a team with expectations that is underperforming those expectations in large part because of the 3-point line on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing you can do about Victor Wembanyama pulling up from 28 feet.
That's part of it.
There's nothing you can do. But when he started to get hot, it was like, okay, somebody pick him up as soon as he's coming across the timeline. Like, somebody pick him up.
No.
Because if that's what he's going to do tonight, he's not fast enough to beat you off the dribble. Like, if Keegan Murray's going out to defend him or Domantas Sabonis is going out to defend him, just don't let him catch and shoot. Don't let him walk into a 28-foot three. Like, nobody expected that to be what he was going to do.
He was shooting, 26% or something going into last night?
I think he was at like 28 point something, but he had been climbing. You could see that his stats had been climbing, and no one was worried about where his shooting was, but like you've got to figure something out in order to defend the 3-point line better.
Yeah, number 2.
Number 2, DeMar DeRozan, 21, 8 and 6. The problem I don't feel like is DeMar DeRozan, although I think it might be a symptom of something. Like where they're not getting some of these guys involved enough, and now you have 3 pretty high level bulk shooters, high volume scorers.
Sure.
That's not always super conducive to everybody like feeling like they're part of what's happening and also finding a rhythm. But I feel like DeMar DeRozan walks into every game and he's got 20 points in his bag.
Yeah, man, he is he's a heck of a player, but at some point I kind of wonder if that's something they look at, and I don't want to say see as a negative, but see as something they have to change. Because De'Aaron Fox is at usage rate 28.6 according to Basketball Reference. DeMar DeRozan 25.2, Malik Monk 21.4, Domas 20.8, Kevin Huerter's at 16. Doug McDermott's at 18.2, by the way. Kevin Huerter 16.1, Keegan Murray at 15.8. And I think the problem with this becomes they get too reliant on De'Aaron Fox or DeMar DeRozan breaking their defender down, going one-on-one, and trying to get, whether it's the mid-range, whether it's getting to the cup, whatever it is. I think they become a little bit too reliant on that. And one of the entire things with Mike Brown's offense is like everybody's touching the ball. Everybody's involved in the game. Like that's one of Steve Kerr's big philosophies. He was a career role guy. He understands the value of having a role player and getting to be able to touch the ball instead of, okay, go stand in the corner and maybe it'll come to you.
Yeah.
And that's the DeMar's been incredible, but that's something they have to figure out here because their offense, need a bucket here. Their offense cannot consistently devolve into DeMar DeRozan tough mid-range jumpers because you're going to continue, I think, to get poor performances.
No, I agree. Right now, the Kings, they're averaging 23.8 assists per game. They're 24th in the league in assists. It's not the same team.
That's not the basketball Mike Brown wants to be playing.
No, and part of that is because everyone's missing their 3-point shots. I mean, straight up, like if you're going to miss all those open threes, then your numbers aren't going to look great. But last year, they averaged 28.3 assists. They're down like 5 assists per game. They were 7th in the league in assists. Like the ball moved.
They had more assists per game last year than they did in the 22-23 season.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Ball's got to move.
I agree.
It's just kind of the long and short of it. But DeMar DeRozan putting the ball in the bucket, 8 boards, 6 assists. Number 3.
Wemby cooked.
Boy, did he.
Yeah. Victor Wembanyama is like a special player, and there's like very few things that you can do, especially when he started hitting like very well contested baseline jumpers from like 18 feet. And that's when you knew you're like, oh, this is going to be a long night.
Yeah.
Like this guy is just hitting absolutely everything. I thought the Kings did a really good job of keeping him out of the key, which was one of my keys yesterday. Just like force him into being a jump shooter, but then he just became an elite jump shooter and looked like prime Kevin Durant. And what are you going to do when he's 7'5" and shoots over the top of everybody?
I don't know. It's follow me here. It's a little bit like the LeBron thing from the second game of the year where LeBron had 16 in the fourth quarter.
Oh yeah.
And it's just, all right. Like that just happens sometimes. And I think that's the level of player that Wemby is eventually going to be. Again, he's not LeBron James yet. He has so freaking long to go to be anywhere close to that. But like you just said, 14 boards, 6 assists, a steal, 3 blocks. Oh, and then he's also going to go get you 34 points because he goes 6 of 12 from 3. If he's shooting 6 of 12 from 3, if this is that specifically to me is not necessarily a Kings issue.
Oh, no.
You can make it a little harder on him, but if that was, and again, this is very specific to Victor Wembanyama. If that was, I don't know who, Brandon Miller from Charlotte, who went number 2 in that draft. If that's Brandon Miller, it's like, hey, can somebody put a body on Brandon Miller? Like, can we contest a shot? With Wemby, it's just kind of like, all right, man.
I mean, he's shooting.
I guess
from he's a legitimate 7'4" with an 8-foot wingspan, and he shoots at the top of his arc. There is no one in the league that can block him. It's basically Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's hook shot is what we're watching. If he decides he's going to start hitting threes like this, there's nothing you can do to stop that play.
Nope.
So,
He
yeah.
has made 12 threes and has 10 blocks in his last 2 games with 30 rebounds, by the way.
Yeah, that, and, look, Domantas Sabonis, who was the other part of this piece,
Yeah.
he was really good. He had
Mhm.
23 points, he had 12 rebounds, he had 4 assists, he had 2 steals. He turned the ball over 4 times, which is becoming a bigger issue. But, he shot 11 of 19 from the field. His field goal percentage is perfect. His shot attempts were really good. I'm A-okay with him taking 19 shots. I don't love that he only scored 23 points on 19 field goals. But overall, I think that was fine. And we'll get to the next key, which is, you can go ahead and ding the bell.
There you go.
Which is De'Aaron Fox, right?
Mhm.
De'Aaron Fox goes 24, 6, and 3. He has 1 turnover. 2 games ago, he had 7 turnovers. We asked him about the finger and how much it's impacting him. Since that point, he's had 1 total turnover in 2 games.
And 11 assists.
Yeah, he's cleaned it up. Like, he understood that, like, that wasn't okay. These 3 guys, DeRozan, Fox, and Sabonis, they're not the problem. At least on paper, they're not the problem. Like, you have to worry that part of the issue is sort of the shrinking of the court and a bunch of mid-range jump shots. But overall, like, these guys, they scored, 68 points between the 3 of them. They needed help from someone else, and they didn't get it.
Yeah, man. I wanna dig into that a little bit later. Let's get to 6 quick thought number 5.
Number 5, we have milk carton games. Keegan Murray and Kevin Huerter just absolutely disappeared in this game.
Yeah.
And it's tough because, both of these players were so good the night before. Again, Keegan Murray had 14 rebounds the night before. Kevin Huerter had his best stat line of the season. What was it, like 19 points and 8 rebounds and, assists.
17, but yeah, he had a really good game. He
had
went
a
5
really
of
good
9
game.
from 3, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They combined to go 3 of 14 from the field and 1 of 10 from 3, and they combined for 7 points. And when 40% of your starting lineup goes for 7 points and you don't have Malik Monk, it's game over. I don't care who they played last night. They were going to lose that game if this is what the stat line looked like.
Fox, Sabonis, and DeRozan combined for 68 points. The rest of the team had 28.
Yeah, that's
you're
cooked.
Ludicrous.
You're cooked.
So that's yeah, man. 3 of 14 from that duo, 1 of 10 from 3. The good news is, despite the bad shooting from the Kings this year, I don't expect that there's going to be a ton of games where they are both as bad as they were last night.
No.
And they didn't even, I mean, one of the things that we've been commending Keegan on this year is, hey, when the shot's not falling or the shot opportunities aren't there, he's affecting the game in other ways. And last night that wasn't the case. 3 rebounds, 1 assist. Just kind of
Yeah, and
it's this first really like slow game of the year for me though.
Yeah.
So I'm not super worried about it. But if those guys, especially with Malik Monk out, they're going to produce like that, you're not going to win a lot of games.
No, and I'd also point out, like, the big 3 of DeRozan, Fox, and Sabonis, they had 53 shot attempts, right?
Mhm.
The Kings had 91 as a group. So that means that there were 38 other shot attempts. And of those 38, I don't even know what they hit, but it's, 11. 11 of 38. Like, they just, no one else, like, was able to step up and be a reliable player. I think Trey Lyles, again, is starting to show he's coming around.
Yep.
He has 8 points. He has 4 rebounds. He had 2 blocks. His 2 blocks were impressive. He goes 3 of 8 and 2 of 6 from 3 in 27 minutes. I think you're finally starting to see him figure it out. And that's a good thing
to
for
play
the
a little
Kings.
faster, yeah.
Yeah,
More decisive.
but the problem is that without Monk, you're limiting the success of these guys. And I think that's part of this too.
Yep. Number 6.
Yeah, the bench without Malik is exactly where we were. It's tough. The bench hasn't been good all season. So when you take away Malik, who is the best of the bench players, this team is in trouble. And they don't have that spark, that energy that Malik brings. And you kind of felt it last night. You're waiting for someone else to bring that sort of like the moxie to the court. And they don't have that guy. And it's really tough because when you rely so heavily on a player like that and then he vanishes, it's almost like, I don't know. It's like taking away, it's not just his stats, it's taking away a boost that you get.
Yeah.
Makes it difficult.
Yeah, it does, man. And let's just kind of pick up there. I don't know. This is a little bit the problem with the roster construction. I think the Malik Monk injury ties into the larger conversation of DeRozan, Fox, and Sabonis were fine to good last night. Why are you losing to the Spurs by 20 when you have 3 All-NBA, All-Star caliber players playing well? How are you losing by 20 to the Spurs? Like that just that to me signals there's okay, maybe it's just Malik Monk. Maybe if Malik had been there last night, he provides a spark and helps keep that game from getting out of hand, and maybe the whole thing goes different. But I don't think it's just Malik. I'm not putting this just on him and his absence. Like this is signals to me that there's a larger problem here, because you should not have 3 players as good as Fox, Sabonis, and DeRozan are combining for 68 points and getting smoked. I don't know. Maybe it's just Keegan playing better. You get a little better night from Kevin Huerter, but then you go look down the bench and it's like, man, like you said earlier, it's not like they have another player to turn to that you feel great about right now.
No, I mean, that's always going to be the problem. And even, the players that they do have on that bench, if you're looking at Trey Lyles, Keon Ellis, Doug McDermott, and Jordan McLaughlin played last night. Jordan had a really nice play, sequence where he had a great steal where he predicted a entry pass and leaped backwards and picked it off, and then he hit a 3. I thought he was okay. But the problem that you run into is, just like size wise, he's not a very big guy, and it's tough to keep him out there against, big, strong point guards. Against Chris Paul, maybe, but even Chris Paul's got to outweigh him by like 30 pounds. He's just a bigger player.
He's a tank.
Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong about the exact weight there, but either way, they don't have like another major option hiding here. All of these guys, Lyles, Ellis, McDermott, McLaughlin, are all players who are better playing off the ball.
Yeah.
And so you've got De'Aaron Fox as your primary ball handler and distributor, and some of these guys are going to play with Domantas Sabonis, who runs, a very specific offense, but you're basically, you lost your main point guard, and McLaughlin isn't a true point guard. He's much better playing off the ball, a catch and shoot guy.
Yeah, he can bring the ball up the floor and like initiate your offense, but you're not running everything through him.
Well, yeah, and you're also not expecting him to come out of a game with 5 assists, which is what Malik Monk routinely does in a game. And so, yeah, I think there is a bit of an issue here, but I mean, what do? You can't, if you go out and find another type of Malik Monk player, Malik Monk comes back in 2 weeks and is like, okay, now there's 2 of them, but like, how do they all fit?
To me, this falls on the starting unit. We knew the bench wasn't going to be super deep this year. We talked about players they could add. We were talking about players they could add like up through training camp who might be able to give you some bench minutes. Jay Crowder. We had like serious conversations about Jay Crowder on this program.
We could have another one right now. They could still sign Jay Crowder today.
Really use Jay Crowder today.
Yeah.
But like, okay, you take out a player who with the and not that Malik Monk's been playing great, but with what we saw last year, you take out a player with that kind of gravity. And to me, it very clearly falls on Keegan Murray. Like, yeah, the bench isn't going to be great, but I'm not looking at Trey Lyles or Keon Ellis or Doug McDermott or any of the Joneses or Jordan McLaughlin, certainly, to make up for Malik Monk's absence. Maybe in the aggregate, you can piece it together. Maybe if Keon Ellis gets hot from 3 one day, you feel good about it. But on a game in, game out basis, this to me is now, hey, there are going to be some additional shot attempts here. They need to make up for about 13 points a game. A lot of that to me falls on Keegan, where I can't have a game where he's shooting it 7 times and going 1 of 5 from 3 when there's no Malik Monk on the court.
No, I get what you're saying, but I also, when I'm looking at the way that Mike has had to distribute minutes and what he's doing so far, I don't really see another out. Like, there's not another way to reduce these minutes for the starters as of right now. There's not. I mean, you hope that maybe at some point, and Isaac Jones can step on the court and give you something here and there. But I mean, what are we asking? The same thing goes with Orlando Robinson. Like, what exactly are you going to ask Orlando Robinson to do? He doesn't handle the ball. He's not going to bring the ball up to court. He's at best going to play the 12 minutes that Sabonis isn't on the court, and that's just not even going to.
And his greatest value might be as the roll man in a pick and roll with
Sabonis,
Malik Monk.
Yeah, with Malik Monk. Yeah.
So I don't know exactly, but when I look at the box score from last night and I look at what DeRozan and Fox and Sabonis all did, I'm not going to put it on Trey Lyles or Keon Ellis. Like, I need Keegan Murray to be better. I need Kevin Huerter to be better. And that's until Malik comes back. That's, I think, what they're going to have to fall back to.
I get you, but
back on.
I still think that you need those guys to be better. Like, there's nothing wrong with asking Trey Lyles and again Keon Ellis to be better. Hey, look, Malik's out.
Sure,
we're going to need you to go from here to here, because what we're already doing is we're maxing out our big four. They're completely maxed. They can't take on any more. We need someone else to be able to hit these threes, to be able to space the floor, and those players could go, hey, look, we're out there doing our thing and no one's passing us the ball. That could be part of it.
Sure.
And not only that, but like the structure isn't working right now. Everybody's clogging everything. Not at the key. We're not getting paint touches. We're getting a bunch of mid-range touches. And so that means that my guy is a step closer than he should be. So maybe their open threes aren't as open as they look on paper. But either way, like, they've got to figure out ways for these guys to be more productive. And I think Trey Lyles is starting to be more productive, like we've talked about. But like every single game, it's got to be like this now, like especially while Malik's out.
Yeah.